Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are digging into one of the biggest stories in all of human history. How two brothers, who were bicycle mechanics, managed to solve the problem of flight when no one else could. I mean, really think about that for a second. How did they pull this off? Well, their story starts not with some giant engine roaring to life, but with asking a completely different question. A question that, as it turns out, everyone else was getting totally wrong. So let's set the scene. The date is December 17th, 1903. This is the day that just changes everything, right? It's the moment humanity finally gets into the air in a machine that is powered, controlled, and can actually stay up there. Now, to really get what Orville and Wilbur Wright accomplished, you gotta understand the mountain they were trying to climb. It was considered an impossible dream. Okay, so these guys weren't rich inventors, and they definitely didn't have any government funding. They were bicycle mechanics from Dayton, Ohio. And that right there, that hands-on feel for balance and structure you get from building and riding a bike, well, that turned out to be their secret weapon.
And this is where things get really interesting. See, this is where their path just completely splits from everybody else's. While the whole world was obsessed with power, the Wrights knew the real problem, the actual problem, was something totally different.
You can see the two ways of thinking right here. You had guys like Samuel Langley, who had a ton of funding, basically trying to just strap the biggest, most powerful engine they could find onto a frame and, hope for the best. But the Wrights, they knew that without control, a flying machine isn't an airplane. It's just a really dangerous, unguided missile. They didn't just guess. No way. They tested, they measured, they were incredibly methodical. And get this, when they found out that all the existing scientific data on aerodynamics was just plain wrong, they didn't quit. They just built their own wind tunnel in their shop and literally wrote the book themselves, creating the world's first accurate data on lift and drag. So all of this super careful, painstaking research led them to this perfect combination of ideas, three key breakthroughs that, when you put them all together, finally cracked the code of controlled flight. And this is it's beautiful. This three-part solution is where you can really see their genius. It wasn't one single invention that did it. It was a whole system where everything worked together perfectly. Okay, this right here, this was the secret sauce. Before the Wrights, people basically thought of flying like driving a car. You just point it where you want to go. But the brothers knew it was much more like riding a bicycle, where you're constantly making tiny adjustments to stay balanced. And here's how they did it. For roll, which is side-to-side balance, they came up with something called wing warping. They could literally twist the wings, kind of like a bird does. For pitch, or going up and down, they put an elevator on the front. And for yaw, turning left and right, they used a rudder on the back. For the first time ever, a pilot could actually fly the plane, not just be a passenger along for the ride. So their next big aha moment was with the propellers. They figured out that a propeller isn't just a big fan that pushes air backward. Nope. It's actually a wing, just one that rotates. And using their own data from their wind tunnel, they designed propellers that were just ridiculously efficient. And because their design was so efficient, the wings, the propellers, the whole shebang, they didn't need some monster engine. The motor they built in their shop with their mechanic, a guy named Charlie Taylor, only produced about 12 horsepower. To put that in perspective, that is less power than a lot of modern lawnmowers. But it was exactly what they needed.
So, they had the machine. They had the science to back it up. Now, they just needed to find the perfect spot to put it all to the test.
And that spot was Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. They picked it for a few really smart reasons. It had strong, steady winds to help with lift. It had soft sand dunes, which were perfect for cushioning the less-than-perfect landings. And it was remote, which meant they could work in private. So, on that chilly morning of December 17th, 1903, it was finally time. Look at how the day unfolded. The very first flight, with Orville at the controls, lasted a mere 12 seconds. It barely went 120 feet. But then look at that last flight of the day. Wilbur stayed in the air for almost a full minute and flew 852 feet. That wasn't just some lucky hop. That was it. That was the proof. It was sustained, controlled, powered flight. They had done it. You'd think that would be the end of the story, right? But amazingly, this incredible success wasn't the end of their struggle. In a lot of ways, a whole new fight was just beginning. The fight to get people to believe them. It is absolutely wild to think about, but for years, most of the world just didn't believe them. Newspapers wouldn't even cover the story. It took until 1908 when they started doing these jaw-dropping public demonstrations in America and in Europe For everyone to finally go, whoa, okay, these bicycle guys from Ohio actually did it. They conquered the air.
And that, right there, is their real legacy. See, they didn't just build the first airplane, they discovered the fundamental language of aviation. That three-axis control system they invented, it is, at its core, the exact same system that steers every single plane in the sky today, from a tiny little Cessna all the way up to a giant A380.
So, the story of the Wright brothers is just this incredible lesson for all of us, isn't it? It shows that sometimes the biggest, most world-changing breakthroughs don't come from just throwing more money or more power at a problem. They come from someone having the courage to step back, question everything, and solve the right problem first.